So let me show you how to use these XPath functions. You can use LinkedIn. Okay. So if you observe this is the text, right? Find jobs through your community. So right click, inspect it. You can see this is the H1 tag. And here you have a lot of space. See, as a space and spaces. But you have to identify this entire text. So how can you identify? So such cases you can use contains, because this is a text. So you have to use contains text. Okay. So the tag name is H1 tag, / H1 square bracket contains of text function, comma, single quote. So the text. So whatever you want, you give that. I'll give either find. So only one word I'll give. So remaining all I'm ignoring. So that's the advantage of contains. You can take beginning, you can take middle, you can take anywhere, any word which you like, which is not going to change. That you can use. So that is the contains. See, it's recognizing. But if you use only text function means exact value you have to give. So exact value if you give, it doesn't work out. So you take Ramesh lost to plot, right? So here, and you go here and this text, register account. So this is also H1 tag, and you can see this. I can write / H1 text function alone I can write. So there is no contains. If you use text function alone, you have to write equal to. So now you can see register an account. So observe here carefully the text function with the contains. So what is the difference? So contains means, so you're not putting a equal to. Only text function means exact text you're referring. So that is the, so contains and the text function. So can I take a starts with? Yes, you can take a starts with also. And even if you see, if you want to use data test ID, you can use the data test ID, or you can use this one. If you want to use attributes, even you can use attributes also. Let's see, Jai, now I want to identify. See, Jai, now you have a class href, data tracking control name, data tracking will navigate. But this one, it doesn't help out. So how to use attributes? So the attributes are, there is a formula here, you can see that. See, / tag name contains attribute name, comma, single quote, attribute value. So you can write a partial attribute value with the contains. Otherwise starts with, if you take, you can take a start part of that, not end part. If dynamically changing, we have seen in Rediff, right? If the value is dynamically changing, you can use that. So let me show you these examples. Starts with, Starts with the text you can use. Starts with attributes you can use. So any one you can use. Let's go and see those two examples. So here, you cannot use starts with here. Why you cannot use starts with even for join now also? Because there is a space. We don't know the space. The same case you can use here starts with register, starts with text. Let me show you that. /h1 tag square bracket starts hyphen with text function comma single quote register. So it is identifying that. Next, contains with attribute. Let's practice that. Contains with attribute. You can take so many elements, right? Here, join now. I'll take this href. I'll just use sign up. Contains I'm using. href contains sign up. I'm asking to identify that. So a tag square bracket contains of @href comma single quote sign up. See that. That is a so join now keyword, how you can use it. Next. That's a contains. You can take anywhere. So anywhere you can take and you can identify the element. Let's take some more elements. Any other elements? So I'll go to rediff.com. Create account base. Okay. Suppose you want to identify date dropdown. See, this is the starting part, right? The name starting part. So you can use this. So // select a tag square bracket contains of @name comma so dob underscore day. See, that's how you can recognize that element, right? So next starts with also you can use. If you don't want to write a tag name, what you can put? Start symbol. Starts hyphen with @name comma single quote. So name starting with the dob underscore anything. For example, month you want to identify. Month. Okay. So this is how you can write a starts with, contains, very helpful, and contains is more flexible than any other locators, because you can take a beginning, you can take middle, and even wherever you want, whichever the keyword you want. But starts with is only starting part you have to take. So you cannot take all the elements, right? That's the main drawback. Any questions still now? Okay. No questions. Let's move on. Next one. Last function and position function. So you can take last function and position functions. Suppose if you identify, so first element, right? First element you identify. So from D, right? So you start with D, okay? You start with D. So start with div. Double forward slash. So div square bracket. I can take a contains @class. I'll take a partial one. Full max. Space max. That's enough. Okay. Then square bracket forward slash ul slash li of a, right? So this is the, we want first element. But suppose if you want last element, so simply write li after last. Just write the last function in the square bracket. Last function. Say it will identify the last element in this section. So like that, if you have many, for example, you have so many, right? If you want to identify last one, this is the best option. And if you want to identify last but one, just write last minus one. See now carriers will identify. If you want last, so from last, no third element, you just put last minus two. Then blog is identified. So that is the how you can so identify this. Okay. And position also similar, almost similar. So you can take this one. Let me take entire thing. So instead of last, you put a position. Position equal to 2, if you give, second one will identify. See, that's the second one. Helps and trace, second one. So whatever the position if you give, that will based on the index. Instead of that, you can give LI of 2, right? Yeah, that's easy. So directly it will identify. Again, you don't need to write this one. Okay. Yeah. So this is all about functions of XPath. We have seen contains a text, starts with the text, contains attribute, starts with attribute, and last function, position function we have seen. There is one more function to identify the so any spaces are there and you want to ignore the spaces, and so completely you can use one more locator, that is one more function. Basically it's not locator, you can say function, xpath function. See, you have a space here, you don't have spaces. You can take this one, sign in. You have spaces, right? But still I want to use sign in only, and you want to ignore all the spaces. So then you have one more concept. So normalize space you have. So normalize space equal to that value. Even if you have spaces, beginning and end, it will ignore automatically, and it will recognize that element. So let's go and write that. So double forward slash. So a tag square bracket, normalize hyphen space equal to sign in. See that? See, it has a spaces, but we didn't give any contains, we didn't give any starts with all those things. But still, you want to ignore spaces, you can use normalize space. That's another function you can use. And so let me show you a few more functions. Then we have access XPaths. So access XPaths are very helpful if you have a tables. In the web page, if you have a tables, these access XPaths will help you. And also, if the elements are dynamically changing and you want to identify one element based on other element, then these access XPaths will help us nicely. And so we have a 4 access XPaths: following, preceding, ancestor, and descendant. Following, preceding, ancestor, and descendant. These are the 4 access XPaths. So following, when you can use is if you are identifying any element after the base node, then use following. If you are identifying any element after the base node, then use following. So double forward slash tag name square bracket text function equal to base node text forward slash following is as the target element which are identified, that element tag name you need to write here. So are you write your own XPath using all above concepts, then following is as target tag name. You can give index. For example, if duplicate tags are there, you can specify the index numbers also. So that is another so very useful one for identifying the elements. So any questions? Let's see that examples. These examples we'll see. And preceding means if you are identifying any element before the base node element, then you will use a preceding concept. So preceding concept generally, so you identify the XPath base element, you take base element XPath, then the base element before element you want to identify, use preceding concept. And XPath / preceding is as tag name, and you can give the position. You can give the position. So ancestor and descendant is, basically, if you want to identify the parent based on the child, you will use ancestor. So if you have a tree structure, then you can use this ancestor, but not necessarily that much. So you will use very rare case, this one, when there is a tree structure. Otherwise, no need. A descendant. So this is also similar. If you are identifying any element below the base element, then you will use a descendant element. So that's the main concepts. And we have so document object model, a DOM, we call this. DOM is basically the JavaScript based thing. If you want to identify any element based on that, so you can use based on the ID also, you can identify the element by just writing document.get element by ID, document.get element by name, you can use. So, but this is a very rare case you will use. Mostly you can use these functions only, following, preceding. So what is following and preceding is, let me show you the following preceding concepts. So Heroku app. So this is the website. Here you can find the tables. So in the table data, if you see this is the table data, right? You can see there is same edit to delete for all the rows. Or for example, you want email of Frank. So you need to get this. How can you get that? You want due amount of that Frank. How can you get that? So or you want to click on delete of this Frank. How can you do that? So these are rows and all these things, right? Based on some base element. So I'll take a base of this Frank or Jazz and whatever the element you want, base element. You take identify first this element. Based on this, front means preceding you have to use. JSON after means you have to use which one? Following. Okay, so let's go and write that. So /. So if you don't know a tag name, just put star. So that's the easiest way. Text function, I'll use a text function equal to, so JSON. Single quote, you have to include the value in single quotes. That's mandatory. First, I'm identifying the base element. Let's see that. Are you able to identify? Yes. So with this XPath, you are able to identify. So based on this, which element you want to identify? So that element, so tag name you have to write. So let's write following, right? JSON followed by this tag. So what is the tag name for this? So TD, write that TD. So JSON followed by TD. So TD1 only. So first write following is as, so the TD tag. See, now it will recognize email. If you write TD2, it will identify due mode. If you write TD3, that means these are all having TD tags because it's a table. That's why TD3. But what about edit and delete elements? So these are links, right? Links are going to have which tag? A tag. So write A. First A if you give, so it will recognize the JSON edit. If you give A of 2, second, it will identify delete. And for example, if you want to identify the JSON first last name, JSON last name Doe, you want to identify, how can you do that? Simply just preceding you have to write. So before, right? JSON before means preceding. Preceding. And what is the tag for the last name? This Doe is having what tag? Just see that. So inspect. So TD, first TD. So you have to write TD of 1. So TD of 1. See, exactly JSON last name will identify. So before means preceding. Base element after means following. Is this clear? Any questions? And a few more, let me show you. And to identify these elements based on this text. So how can you identify that? First, identify that text. See, this has a spaces, right? First, use this text to identify that. So // span tag, square bracket. So text, no, not text function. It's a contains of text function, comma, single quote ends, normal bracket close, square bracket close, following. So you have to identify this text. This is the dynamically changing. See, if you uncheck, the value will go. But you cannot, write the text. So how can you identify that? So to identify that, so you have to use what tag it is? Span tag. So let's go and identify span tag. See, now it will recognize that element. Okay. So this is based on this text, I'm identifying another element. So anything based on one element, you want to identify other element after the base element. Use following. Before the base element means use preceding. So that's the very simple concept. So even if you, let me show you a few more preceding. See now here, in this website, all the elements ID name dynamically changes. You should not use that ID and name. Now, how can you recognize this? If you are not, so you are not identifying with ID, this radio button. So if you use this radio button, ID name dynamically changes. You should not use that. Then how can you recognize that? First, you identify the performance. Before that, first radio button. So then it will work out perfectly. So let's see that. So double forward slash star square bracket normalize. So if you know all the concepts, any concept you can use. See, I am using all the XPath functions. So done. Now see, first performance I'm identifying. Once performance is done, then preceding is as first input tag. What tag will be there for edit radio buttons? See, first input tag. So why it is so let me give you a label. Yeah. So label if I give and it is working perfectly. So input of 1. So that means this performance, first input is this one. Second input is this one. Third input is this one. So that's why preceding of input 1. So this is how you can recognize your web page elements with all the locators. Okay. So that's all about object identification. So the object identification we have seen ID, name, class name, XPath, CSS selector, link text, partial link text we have seen. And how to write this in WebDriver also I have shown you the syntax. So we have seen the syntaxes, right? That syntaxes also we have seen. So after this, for example, you are facing a problem. You are not able to write the XPath. You are not able to identify the element. How can you recognize? Is there any other tools that will help you to recognize the element instead of blocking there? So is there any option to get the object identification for the elements in the any applications? So there are some tools. So let's join back and I'll introduce those tools. You install them and in your browsers, it will help you. Okay. So after that, so we can close, then we can start the Selenium WebDriver topic. Yeah. Any questions? More practice is important. If you just listen these things, it's not going to work out. So how many websites you take and write more object identification, then you will become a stronger. If you're not doing that, it's a very, very difficult. Now, if you go to bigger companies, that's every website is going to be different. More practice, if you do, you will get a confident how to build the XPath, how to identify the elements. Okay. Yeah. So let's jump back and see the tools.